Hi class, today we're going to talk about acids and bases and the pH scale. So scientists use a range of numbers from 0 to 14, which is called a pH scale, to tell us how acidic or basic a solution is or if it's neutral. pH has a lowercase p and a capital H because it stands for potential or power of hydrogen, which we know is an element on the periodic table. So that capital letter has to be capitalized because it stands for hydrogen. So if we look at the scale, acids are going to range from 0 to 6, which is all the way on the left-hand side of the scale. A solution that tests at 7 is neutral, which is right in the middle of the scale. And bases are going to range from 8 to 14 on the right-hand side of the scale. So if we look here at our example, we know that neutral is right in the center at 7. Our acids are going to be on the left-hand side of the scale, and the bases are going to be on the right-hand side. Now if we think about it, if neutral is located here in the center, this is where our weaker acids and bases are going to be closer to because it's closer and closer to neutral. So you actually are going to find your strong acids all the way on the left, and your strong bases are going to be all the way on the right. So strong acids are going to be like a 0 or a 1, and then strong bases are going to be more like a 13 or 14 because they're further away from this neutral. So the closer an item gets on the pH scale to neutral, the weaker it's going to be. If we look at acids, they have the following characteristics. They're going to have a sour taste. They contain hydrogen ions or H+ ions. They have a very strong smell. They can burn or sting your skin depending how strong they are. And they also react with metals. Some common acids you may have heard of include aspirin, vitamin C, soft drinks, so things like soda, fruits. A lot of citrus fruits like oranges and lemons are going to be acids. Hydrochloric acid, which we've talked about, is in your stomach, and sulfuric acid is in car batteries. Bases, on the other hand, are going to have a bitter taste. They feel slippery. They can be poisonous. They can burn your skin, and they can dissolve things. So strong bases are just as dangerous as strong acids, and a lot of cleaning supplies are going to fall on the basic side of the scale. Other common examples, things like antacids and deodorant, glass cleaner like Windex, mortar and plaster have a basic pH, dish detergent, oven and drain cleaners, and bleach. So if you notice, a lot of them are common cleaning products. They're going to test on the basic side of the scale. Now, if you take two substances, if you've got a strong base and a strong acid and you mix them together, this is actually called a neutralization reaction. You're taking two different substances from each end of the scale. When you mix them together, you're going to end up with a pH that's a lot more neutral. So it's not exactly 7, but if you mix a pH of 12 and 2, you probably end up with something like a pH of 8. And that reaction is usually going to produce a water and a salt. If we want to know what a substance pH is, you use what's called an indicator, and it's called that because it's going to indicate whether it's an acid or a base. There are 3 different types that we're going to talk about. The 3 indicators are cabbage juice, which you can see here in this picture. It's a really dark purple color, and that will change different colors in the presence of an acid or a base. The second is litmus paper. That will also change color in the presence of an acid or a base. And the third is pH paper. Now, pH paper is probably the most specific in that it's going to tell you not only if something is an acid or base or neutral, but how strong that acid or base is, because it's going to give you a specific number on the scale. So for each of these, you are going to, you can see here, red litmus paper with a drop of base is going to turn it blue. You've got blue litmus paper with a drop of acid will turn that red. And then pH paper. This was dipped into a substance, and as you can see, it's on the far end of the scale toward the base here. So that's what happens when you test them with substances. For example, cabbage juice. It starts out a very dark purple color, so if you've got a neutral substance with cabbage juice, it'll just stay purple. If it comes into contact with a base, it's going to turn some sort of green shade of color, and in the presence of an acid, it's going to turn pink. Litmus paper only has 2 options. So if you have blue litmus paper, it's going to turn red in the presence of an acid. If you put red litmus paper with an acid, it's just going to stay red. Red litmus paper is going to turn blue in the presence of a base. And then pH paper is the most specific. So if you have an acid that's tested with pH paper, it's going to be somewhere in the red to orange side of the scale, depending on the pH number. And then in a base, it's going to be either a dark green or blue, with a neutral substance ending up turning yellow with pH paper. So again, pH paper is the most specific. It's not only going to tell you if it's an acid or base, but it's going to give you a specific value for that pH. Okay? So again, if we have our pH scale, we go from 0 to 14. Neutral's right in the center, kind of a yellowish color with our acids on the left, bases on the right. A lot of these are going to be cleaning supplies. A lot of these are going to be a lot of citrus substances and some of those different examples of acids with neutral testing at the middle. And again, we have our 3 indicators of cabbage juice, litmus paper, and pH paper that will tell us what kind of an acid or a base we are looking at. And that's what you need to know about acids, bases, and the pH scale.